Okay, guys, welcome back. Before we start, your assignment number 1 is going to be online after we finish with the lecture, because one of the topics that you need to complete the assignment is something that we're going to review today. So assignment number 1 is going to be available today and is due next Monday. So you have a couple of days to work. The assignment is easy. It's used like a lab. However, remember, your labs are 25%, your assignments are also 25%. So one assignment is kind of 5 labs, because each lab is like 1% if we do 25 labs, but we are going to do only 5, 6, 7 assignments, homework. So please complete the assignment. It's important. It's a program, a very simple program. You're going to find the instructions and you have several days to work. Good? So due date next Monday. So please take a look tomorrow or when we finish the lecture. Now, moving forward. For today, yesterday I talked about libraries. And I mentioned this. The fancy name for the libraries is API. And the meaning for Java API is that one, Application Program Interface. The name is very fancy, but basically when you read that, the name or use the letters API, they are talking about libraries. Now, I need to put the following. When you read Java API, I am telling you, think about the library for Java. Now, the API is a group of packages. That is the name for what you have in the Java API. Package is a fancy name for a folder. So the library of Java is basically a lot of folders, a lot of packages. The thing that you need to learn about the library is in which package do we have what? Packages, they have classes. And if you remember, one class is one file. So the Java library, the Java API, is a group of folders. And inside of those folders, you have files. Put that in the Java fancy language. And the Java API is a group of packages, and each package has classes. Inside of the classes, you have methods. And basically, as we reviewed yesterday with println and all the methods in the math class, those methods can be used in your programs just like any other instruction. So this is kind of the names, the fancy names for the things that we're going to review today. The Java API, the packages, the classes, and which methods are in which class. I mentioned this before. If you go to Canvas in the first week, you have this link to the Java API. If you click in the link, what you're going to find is a list of packages. If you click in one of the packages, then what you're going to have is a list of the classes inside of that package, the files inside of that folder. And then if you click in one of the classes, what you're going to have is a list of the methods inside of that class. Just like that. The folder, the files, and the methods inside of those files. That's it. And that is what we need to learn in order to use this in our programs. Now, going back to the slides. There are 2 folders that have the Java API. If you think about the Java API, you are going to have a folder Java and a folder Java X. That is kind of the root of the library. Java, Java X. What is the difference? Well, you can think something about like the folder Java is the first generation library. Is everything that exists from the beginning of Java. And Java X is like things that have been included later. It's kind of the Java 2 or the second generation of Java, whatever. Two folders. Everything from the beginning, Java, the old thing, the new thing. What is the new thing? Usually the Java X, the new things, the most important that we're going to be using are related with graphical user interfaces. The classes, the methods, the instructions to create things that are graphic, like a window or something fancy, a frame, a panel, things like that. Those are going to be in the Java X folder. Different things, but those are the most important for us in this class. Now, inside of those folders, you are going to have more folders. So you have packages inside packages, folders inside folders. It's just what you do to organize things. Now, if you think about Windows, in Windows, what you do in order to specify a folder and the next folder and the next folder is to separate the names of those folders with a slash. In other operating systems, you split the name of the folders with the backslash. So that is something that happened with the operating system that you are using, right? If you go to the console or to the terminal, you can read the full path of one file, and you're going to have all the folders in which that file is, and slash or backslash. Java, instead of using this one or this one, because that will represent to select one of the operating system over the other, Java is going to change that one for something different, the dot. So if I mention something like java.util, I am talking about the package util, and that package is inside of the package Java. And if you want to think about it, I am talking about the folder util inside of the folder Java. Or if I mention java.net, it's a package, the package net, inside of the package Java. Usually what we do is used to use the full name for the package. So usually you're going to listen like, the package java.util, or the package java.net, or the package java x string, whatever. Just remember, each of the words is the name of one package, one folder, and the other is one package, one folder inside of the previous one. So inside of the packages, inside of the folders, what you have is files. That is the last thing, classes. Well, if you remember, we have been using the class string. Yesterday, we used the class math. And moreover, we have been using println, it's a method. And I just mentioned that method is going to be inside of a class, and that class is connected with system. So we have been using the class string, math, and system. Notice the uppercase. I know that they are classes because the first letter is uppercase. All the classes that we have been using, they are in the package java.lang. Yeah, they only use the first letter, but that is the meaning of the letters. That folder have those classes and other classes. Why that package is important? Why I put that package in a different color? One reason. You do not need to do anything to use the classes in that folder. You can use the classes in that folder without doing anything. If you remember all the examples that I have shown you, we have been using string, math, print, and we do not need to do anything. They are just there for me to work in my programs. By default, every single time that you create a program in Java, you have access to every single class, therefore every single method, instruction in those classes, just by default. Easy, right? Now, what happens if you want to use an instruction that is not in this folder, but in any other? What happens if you want to use an instruction that is in one of these or others that exist? Well, you need to do something. You need to ask for have access to them. And yes, you need to import them. And why this import them? You can think about this idea of import like go to the library and ask for a book, like borrow a book. That is the idea. In Java, you call that action import. And the reason because you call that action import is because the instruction that you need to put in your program in order to have access to that folder or one of the classes in that folder is the instruction import. It's a keyword. You need to use the keyword import, and then you need to put, you have two options. Number one, you put the name of the folder, like folder, and at the end, dot asterisk. What is the meaning of that? I am telling my compiler, I want to use all the classes, all the files inside of the folder swing that is inside of the folder javax. And I am going to tell what is the content of that folder. But if you have the asterisk at the end, you are asking for access to all the files in that particular folder. And I think it's the same character that you use in any other operating system if you want to work in the terminal or in the console. That asterisk is the special character to represent all the files in this folder. Now, that is one option. A second option, you can import, ask to have access to one particular class, one file, but obviously you need to specify in which folder that particular file exists. So notice that you use the dot. The dot is like your slash, backslash to separate the name of the files and the name of the folders. You can be thinking like, how do I know which is the name of the package, the folders, and which is the name of the class? Easy. The name of the folders, always, 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 first letter, lowercase, just like the name of the variables or the name of the methods. So when you saw a lowercase letter, you know that that one is the name of a folder. When you read something like this guy, uppercase J, hopefully now you know that this one, I have no idea what is the content. I have no idea what I am using, but that one is a class. G option pane is a class. And therefore, it's going to have methods. Methods that I can use in my program, right? So, import, to have access to additional elements in the Java library, in the Java API. Import one folder or import one file, one class. Those are the two uses for import. Now, the library. If you go to Canvas and make a click in the Java API, you are going to notice that there is a lot of folders. And in each folder, a lot of classes. And no, we are not going to review all of them in this class. We are going to learn about them in different classes, in different courses, because different reasons. The only thing that I want to do is to mention here the following, because these ones are the ones that you're going to use in this class and maybe in the 200 level classes that you're going to take after this one. Easy one. Java lang. As I mentioned before, Java lang, your folder, your classes by default that you always have access. The important classes there, the one that I need you to memorize, math, string, and system. Those three, the three that we have been using, they live in the Java lang. Do you think that you are going to have an import java.lang in some program? Tricky question, I know. You never are going to have that instruction, never. Why? Because by default, the compiler have access to that package. You do not need to import that package. It's already imported by default without you doing anything. So never, never, never do this. You do not need to do that. It's just redundant, right? What you're going to have in your programs is imports for other packages. For instance, this one, java.net. If you are going to do a Java program and that program is going to do something related with networking, I am talking about clients and servers. I am talking about a Java program that is going to connect with a server, like a Java program that is going to connect with your email server or with a server in the cloud, and it's going to send information to a database or get information from a database. Any Java program that works in that way, client-server application, like a web application or something like that, you're going to notice that you have the package java.net. And inside of that package, you have a lot of classes with a lot of things that you can use to create those kind of programs. We are not going to do that in this class. Java util. Java util is a package that have data structures. Yeah, list, stack, trees, graph. What are those? You're going to have one class that is going to talk about this, a 200 level class. Your class about data structures, you're going to review these guys. And if you do programming, you're going to be using Java, and all your programs in that class are going to be using this package. And no, we are not going to use that package in this class, but just for you to let you know. Next, these two. Java AWT is the old version of everything related with graphical user interfaces in Java. Windows, labels, panels, menu bars, menu options, all those things, scroll bars, all of that, anything related with graphical user interfaces, anything that you need to create an application in Java that have a graphical user interface, something nice, for the older version of Java is in this package, Java AWT. And the same graphical user interfaces, but in the new version of Java. So beautiful, nice, better interfaces are here in the Java 8 Swing. Swing is the name for the platform, the graphics platform in Java. You can be thinking like, and what is the main difference? Well, the main difference is the following. If you use AWT and you create a window, the window is going to look like a window in Java. And the window in Java is going to look like the ones that I showed you for NetBeans. It's not Windows, it's not Mac, it's something else. So basically it looks like different to everything. When you use Swing, the same program, if you run the program in a Windows machine, when you open the graphical user interface, all the elements looks like any other Windows application. And if you take the same program and you run that program in a Macintosh, you run the program and everything looks like the Macintosh environment, the Mac environment. So you can think about the Swing graphical user elements, something like change, real-time, adapt, and reuse the environment in which it's running. So it looks better because it's going to look like any other program in the environment. Usually, if you're going to do something graphic, something with a graphical interface, the recommendation is use Swing, use the Java X version. We're going to use that one today for something simple. So we're going to have a small graphical user interface used for one task. So these are maybe the most important packages, the most important elements in the Java API. The only thing that I need you to remember, folders, Java, JavaX, folder, lang, net, util, AWT, Swing, classes, whatever you put after, with a dot, the name of the class, or with a dot, the asterisk. And that one is going to give you access to the class, to work with the class, to use the methods. Now, yeah, you're going to be using those two in this class. Question in the chat. You are going to be using Java Lang? Yes. We are going to use Java Swing? Yes. And maybe I give you an example with another package, but those two are the ones that you need for the homework, and those two are the ones that we're going to use today and in several examples next week. So yeah, those two. And for Java Lang, you do not need the import. The import, so far, the only reason because I need to teach you import until this point is because I need you to use the Java Swing package. Good? Okay, now the question that I am sure you have is where do we put the import? Because it's a new instruction, we haven't reviewed import. Oh, good question. So question in the chat, why do we need to import one class instead of import everything? Well, to be honest, it's like, why you go to the library and borrow one book when you can borrow 3, 5 books together? Honestly, the point is the following. Your compiler is a program, right? So your compiler, before start compiling your program, your compiler is going to read all the books that you import. So basically, when you import one file or when you import 20, the only difference is your compiler needs time to read one or to read 20. It's better to read one. Wait, you can think like, if I import one, the compiler is going to take 1 second, and if I import 20, the compiler is going to use 20 seconds. I don't care having my compiler using 20 seconds versus 1 second. So it's just how many times do you want your compiler to be reading files? That's it. Usually, a good programmer do not import classes that do not need. So usually, it's a good idea to only import the class that you need. Good news. If you have a developer environment like Eclipse or like NetBeans or IntelliJ or any of those fancy environments, if you put this in your program, automatically, maybe you receive a question or something, but automatically the environment is going to tell you, hey, you are only using one class for this folder. Do you want to change this line for this one? Or you are using 2 files from this folder. Do you want to change this asterisk for 2 lines importing those 2 classes? You can say yes, and the environment change the asterisk for only importing particular classes, particular elements. So it's a good idea to import only one class. Your environment is going to help you. So you can put the asterisk and let the environment to fix that thing. If you're not using a developer environment, if you are programming like in a notepad or something like that, well, it's up to you to do this instead of this. But if you do this, the asterisk, the only thing that happens is your compiler is going to need more time to translate your program. And more time for the compiler, milliseconds, no problem. Now, moving forward, where do you need to put the instruction import? Because that is important. How do I use the import in my programs? Well, next. Not really. Answering another question in the chat. There is any point in which you are going to have problems importing packages? No. I mean, all the classes in Java are very, very small. We are talking about kilobytes. And for your computer, your laptop, that is the one that you are using to do programming, any compiler running in a laptop or in a desktop computer can read hundreds, thousands of files without any problem. So now don't worry for the imports. So next, where to put the import? You know what? Now import become the first line in your programs. You're going to use import. Import is your first line, not the public class anymore. New rule, import, go outside of the class and at the top. Think about it. The first thing that you want to tell the compiler is, compiler, I am going to use these extra libraries. And now here is my class. Makes sense, right? It's what I am going to use, the books that I am going to ask, borrow from the library, and now my class, the content of my file. So, for instance, if I want to use this GOption pane class, that I am going to talk more about it, and I know that that class is inside of the folder packages Java Swing, first line in my program. The only thing that I am doing there is asking the compiler to go and read the file GOption pane because my program is going to use some instructions that are in that file. And if my compiler do not read that class, my compiler is not going to know what I am doing in my program. So the compiler go, read the library, and then I create my class. My class, lecture 6, in a lecture 6 Java, just like before, nothing changed. Inside of my class, I have my method main, the same as before. And inside of my method main, I have a variable. My variable is going to be a string, right? It's nothing new. The only thing new is this thing here. Do you remember yesterday? math.sqrt. In order to access the method sqrt in the class math. What do you think I am doing there in the line 7? I am calling a method. I am using a new instruction. What is the name of that new instruction? What is the name of that new method? Show input dialog. Makes sense, right? Show input dialog is a method. How do I know that it's a method? Because the parentheses. Do you remember? Any name with parentheses is a method. And I can call the methods that I create in my class. But also I can call the methods that I have in another classes. What do I need to do if I want to call a method that is in another class? I need to put the name of the class, dot, and the name of the method. And hopefully you notice the connection. I am telling the compiler, go and read the class GOption pane that is in this folder. Now, compiler, from that class that you read before, I want to use the method show input dialog. That is what is happening. I am calling a method from a class that is in a library. That's it. Now, that method, I am adding something inside of the parentheses, just like I did with the print. Remember? With the print, we put in parentheses whatever we want to print. What is going to happen when I run this program is the following. The first thing that the program is going to do is to show you this window with these elements. I run the program in a Mac, so the window looks like the Mac OS interface. If you run the program in your computer and you have a Windows computer, the window is going to look like any other dialog box in your Windows computer. Because remember, I am using Swing. And the nice thing of the Swing graphical elements is that they adapt to the particular operating system. So if you run this in a Mac, you're going to have the same thing that I have. But if you have a different computer, you're going to notice that the window looks like that computer. Now, you notice what happened to the text that I put inside of the parentheses. Is the text that is going to be printed on the dialog box. Inside of the library knows how to create a window. The library knows how to put in the window the classical close, minimize, maximize elements. The library knows how to put this cancel and OK. Even this icon there. I do not put the icon, it's in the library. Everything is from the library. The only thing that I give was this message, and that message is going to be printed in this place. And also, the computer is going to show me this box. And yes, I can write something in that box. It's a dialog box for an input value. Do you remember the name for the method? Show input dialog. It's a method, and that method show an input dialog box. Now, the next thing, and yes, someone mentioned this in the chat, is like whatever you write here, like for instance, I put 100, and then I put, okay, what is going to happen with this value? Whatever I write there, well, I need to review what I put in my program. Whatever you write in this dialog box, this method is going to put that in this variable. In this case, in the variable test1, that is a string, because here, what the user is going to write is several characters from the keyword. So whatever the user writes is going to be stored in this string variable. So something very, very important for you. Every single time that you use this instruction, what you're going to have is a string. So even though I write 100, this 100 is not a number. That 100 is just like the string with the number 1 as a character and twice the character 0. So that is what I saw with this instruction, and whatever the user put here is going to end stored in this variable. So if in the next line I ask the computer with a system out println, now I am using a method from the system class that is in the Java lang package. Did you notice the connection? Every single method is in a class, every single class is in a package. Folder, file, the methods, this paragraph that we have in our classes. So if I use this print and I print test1, notice that the test1 is the variable in which I put before a value. What I am going to have on the screen is this print 100. I am going to do that in my next example. In the next example, I'm going to make this an integer. 5 minutes, and we do that. So the only thing that I am showing you now, and I need you to practice and be sure that you understand this, for the first time, we are using the keyboard to ask the user for a value. And for the first time, what I am printing is not a value that I, as a programmer, put in the variable, but I am printing something that comes from the user. So asking to the user for the value and printing the same information that the user provides. So for the first time, you can do a program that if you run the program several times, but you answer this question in a different ways, you get a different output. So now I can start thinking about asking you to do a program that maybe asks you for your grades in the class, the grades that you receive in the labs, for instance, and with those numbers, calculate your grade in the class, for instance. So now we can do programs that do something with information that comes from the user, not information that is inside of the program itself, like all the programs that you have done before. Makes sense? Now, the next thing. Yes, Java option pane is a class, a file. Show input dialog is a method, and swing is a folder. Javax is a folder. I am going to change the string for int in the next example. So here, it is clear, right? Hopefully. It's a new instruction, show input dialog. And that instruction lives in a new package, in a new part of the library that now we're using because the import keyword. Good? Now, this example, the important things. This instruction give me a string. We need always this variable, the variable that receives the information for the show input dialog action, need to be a string. If you put here double, integer, or any other thing that is not a string, this is going to be an error. So I put a string, good. But you are asking me, I do not want this 100 be a string. I do not want the 100 inside of quotation marks because maybe I want to do some mathematical operation with the 100. And right now, I cannot do that mathematical operation, a division or multiplication, because right now it's a string. So what I want to do is to transform the string into a numeric value, right? You have a string and you want to transform that string into an integer, or you want to transform that string into a floating point value. Transform. What do we need? An instruction, a new instruction, an instruction that is able to do that transformation. Okay, that instruction is a method. That method is inside some class The only thing that I need to do is a research about what is the name of the method that is able to transform a class to a number, and where, in which part of the library that method exists. You can think about, go to the library and search for a book that have an answer for whatever question you have. That is programming, searching for a method that hopefully exists. 99% of the time, the methods already exist. The only thing that you need to do is figure out where that method is. So can you explain me what is this here, or what is this here? Do we have a method there? Hopefully you agree with me that parse int is a method. Hopefully you agree with me that parse double is a method. So these two guys are methods, therefore instructions. Moreover, this integer that is before the parse int, uppercase, is the name of a class. This double here, uppercase, notice, is uppercase, is the name of a class. You have a class integer, and inside of that class integer, you have a method parse int. You have a class double, and inside of that class double, you have a method parse double. Did you notice what I am using inside of the parentheses? Test1. What is test1? This variable. That variable is a string. I have this method, parse int, and I can give that method a string. I have this method parse double, and I can give that method a string. And did you notice what is going to happen with that string? The parse int method, I give the method a string, and the method is going to give me an integer. Parse double, I give him a string, and it's going to give me a double. Is the instruction to translate from a string to a numeric format. Is the instruction to translate what I read from the dialog box to something else. Programming, give instructions to the computer. One instruction, read from the keyboard. Second instruction, I translate what you read from the keyboard to the data type that I need to continue working, double, integer, whatever. Makes sense? Nope, that int inside of parentheses is not going to work here, because that is casting. We need to talk about it. You can apply casting from a double to an integer, that works. But if you apply casting from an integer, from a string, that do not happen. That is a different idea. That is the reason because I need these instructions. So casting alone, you can try in your compiler. It's going to give you an error, a compilation error. Casting do not do what we are doing here. Strings to numbers do not work in that way. So for you guys, I am talking about casting, and I am talking about something like this. Topic 4, next. We're going to review this in the week 4 or something. So whatever. Good. Instructions. Use instructions in my programs. Now, with this, what I have is the possibility of doing a program like this one. And if I give you this program and I ask you what this program is going to do, hopefully you do not need to put the program in the compiler and run it to figure out what this program is doing. I mean, my expectation is you can understand the program and you can explain me what this program is going to do before running the program, just by looking to the program. How many classes? How many methods? Which is going to be the first line to be executed? Hopefully You agree with me? We start with the line 7. What is going to happen in the line 7? Our new friend, the show input dialog. You're going to show on the screen a dialog box, and you're going to be able to write something in that dialog box. And that something is going to be stored in this variable. And then you click OK. And another dialog box is going to appear. And you're going to be able to write something there. And whatever you write there is going to be stored in a second variable, test2. Remember, the name is whatever you want to use, but it's one variable string, another variable with a different name. You need to use different names. And again, it's going to happen the same for the third time. So 3 times, you're going to have a dialog box. 3 times, you're going to have the opportunity to write something. 3 times, whatever you write is going to be stored in a particular variable. What is happening in the next 3 lines? Our friend parseInt is a method, a new instruction from the class integer. Test1, test2, test3, strings. That instruction, I give a string, and the instruction give me an integer. We have value 1, value 2, value 3, used to follow in the same format, but again, they are integer variables. You can use whatever name you want. 3 variables, integer. Finally, you can work with your variables. Work with your variables. What I am doing here is basically printing things. What is going to be printed by the line 14? What is going to be printed when I do system.out.println test1? If I put 100 like before, test1 is going to print 100. What is going to be printed by the system.out.println value 1? It's going to print also 100, right? Because if you print a string or if you print a number, there is no difference. What you're going to show on the screen is the same. I'm going to mention that in 1 minute. But before answering the question in the chat, what do you think is going to happen if I print test1 plus test1? Test1 is a string, right? Plus a string. This one here, if you work with the test1, well, it's going to print the string 100 plus the same string 100. What about the second one, the one with value 1 plus value 1? This one is going to print 200. Hopefully you notice what is the big difference between working with the strings and working with numbers. Why do we need this instruction parseInt? Because one thing is working with the characters and do the plus with the characters and having as a result a string, and a complete different thing is if I want to work with the numbers, and the numbers to do something like an arithmetic operation, and I want to do these 200s, right? Now, this is easy. And well, I am asking the user to give me a number. And I am assuming that my user is going to give me this 100 or 90, 80, or 3 digits, 2 digits. What happened if the user give me something else in the chat? What happened if the user here write like, and you can follow the letters. What happened if the user do not understand the instruction? Or what happened if the user want to do something like this? your program crash. Exactly. You can run your program when the user puts something like this, letters. I mean, when your user click any key that is not a digit, what is going to happen is you click OK and your program crash. You have an error and the window closed. Yes, that is the reason, because our program needs to review what the user writes. And in order to do that, we're going to use conditions. Yes, but we're going to review conditions next week or the next one, depending. So conditions are going to exist here, among other things. But right now, with the knowledge that you have, what is going to happen is your program is going to crash. If you use char as a data type, two things. Number one, even if you put here only one element, that one element is a string with one element, like one digit. So this box always is going to read a string. In fact, if you click OK and you do not write anything, the content of the variable is going to be this empty string. So the dialog box always is going to put in your variable a string, an empty one, or one with one character, or more characters, something, but it's going to be a string. Now, here, we have integer parse int. We have double parse double. Tell me, what can I do if I do not want to use doubles? They are too big. I want to use floating point values. I want to use, a float variable. And I want to make my float variable store this text1. And text1 is a string that comes from this G option pane show input, etc. I am not going to write everything. What is the instruction that I need to use here to translate this string not to an integer, not to a double, but to a floating point number? It was easy, right? Like integer, double, float. Parse, float. Yeah. So you can translate your string to double, to float, to integer, whatever. The only thing that you need really is to research what is the name of the instruction. I do not know if you notice, but if you are using a fancy IDE, the only thing that you need to do is to write, for instance, integer, put the dot, and automatically you have here a menu with a lot of options. All the methods inside of the class integer, and you have this list, and the only thing that you need to do is, oh, I am going to search for the parsing, click, and automatically you have that in your editor. That is the fancy tools that we mentioned in the first week regarding using a developer environment. You do not need to memorize all the instructions, because basically the environment helps you to complete the code. Completing the code is used with something that you remember here, maybe the initial letters or maybe the name of the class. Then you have access to all the options, methods available. And sometimes it's not hard to guess, like, well, if I have a class integer, then I have a class double. For sure, it should be a class float. What about asking for a true-false value? Do you think that you can transform a string to a true-false? If so, which is the instruction to transform a string to a true false? Maybe a class boolean, and maybe a parse. You get the idea. What about characters? Maybe there is a class character, and just like for the integer, the class is character, not char, like integer, not int. And you can be thinking, why the types are int and char and the classes are integer and character? That is the language. The person that created the language decide that. That's it. So, good. So hopefully it makes sense. Now, if this makes sense, that means that if I show you that program and I ask you about the result of this, and I show you this as an output, you can explain to me why I have this 100, 100, and why I have these 200s. We just did that before, but now it's the opposite. It's like, I can show you in your exam the output and the program, and what I want is for you to explain me why that is the output. Good? Makes sense so far? Hopefully, yes. Okay. So think about it. The only thing that is going to happen in the following weeks is I am going to mention new classes and I am going to mention new methods. And you're going to start including those classes and those methods. Hopefully you can memorize them. And the next time that you create a program, you can use those methods. From now on, I can ask you to create programs that ask the user for something. Something like, what is your name? Something like, which are your grades? Which was your grade in your exam? What if I asked you right now, and I give you 5 minutes, to write a program in Java that asks the user, what is your name? And then the program print on the screen whatever. Something like that. One question in your exam, 5 points. Can you do a program that does something like that? Ask the user for the name and print hello, whatever is the name, repeat the name. Nice to meet you. That's it. Hopefully it's easy, and hopefully you can do that in less than 3 minutes, because more or less is the time that you're going to have per question. If you can do that, you are moving forward very, very well. Just try to do it, because I just mentioned this right now, but maybe, just maybe, is the question 2 in your exam. So it's better that you try before the exam, right? So try to do a program that asks for your name, ask the user for the name, and print some kind of hello and the name. What do you need to do in order to print hello and the name? Can you agree with me that in order to do this, what you're going to end doing is, number 1, using print ln, but also in some part of your program, you're going to have a string inside of quotation marks, and you're going to do an addition with some kind of variable. Fully agree with the answer in the chat. System out println hello plus the variable. And well, you can add a white space just to separate the hello and the name, but that is the answer. Great. Guys, I am receiving answers in the chat. I am expecting that everyone, 40 people, is following me. Please, if that is not the case, let me know. If you do not want to talk right now, send me an email, talk with the TA, whatever. But my expectation is that this thing here and whatever we are talking, it is 100% clear. Good. So one last thing for today. So far, you can ask the user for information. You can transform that information to whatever format you need. And you can use println to print something on the screen. Now, what if I told you that println is not the only option that you have to print something on the screen? You have another option. That other option is a method printf. Okay, the other one was println. This one is printf. Just for you to remember, println, the ln was because line, print line, and the reason is because println, print what you put in the parentheses, but also add an enter. If you notice, every time that you print something with println, at the end, you have this enter. So if you print two things with println, is one line and then another line. So println, print line, line because you do the enter. You move to the next line. Printf, the F, print function. Printf is something that comes from C++. That instruction exists in this language, C++. Something that you're going to learn in the 240 class is that Java is kind of the grandson of C++ and C. Well, it's kind of the son of C++, and C++ is the son of C. So Java is the grandson of C. And that is the reason because in Java, we have this instruction that comes from the grandparent. This instruction in particular looks like this. Looks like this. If you notice, the instruction is also in the same class that println. It's another method in the same class. If you notice, println, you put something inside of the parentheses, only one thing. Printf gives you the possibility to put two things inside of the parentheses. Two things, and I am showing you one in red and the other in black. Red, red. If you want to print a number, it could be a variable, or it could be a value used like this. And you want to control how many decimals or how many digits that number is going to use on the screen, this is your method. This is your method to do format to the output. Format. What do I need to do? Well, number one, you put printf. The first thing that you need to give me is the format. And the second thing that you're going to give me is the value for the format. The format, always, 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 is going to be a string. So it's going to be something inside of quotation marks. What do I put inside of the quotation marks? Number one, the percentage symbol. The percentage symbol. The percentage symbol and the letter F if you want the computer to print a floating point number. The percentage symbol and the letter D if you want the computer to print a decimal number. Decimal number in this case represent integer numbers. Decimal numbers represent numbers without the dot and the decimals. Yes, I know. Percentage C if you want to print one character, one and only one character. Okay, looks good. And when you have the F, remember, the floating point numbers, you can provide two numbers here. Computer, I want you to print a floating point number, and I want you to use two spaces before the dot, and I want you to use only one space after the dot. This is going to print whatever value you put here with only one decimal. Or maybe you want 2, or 3, or 4, whatever. The number that you put here is the number of decimals that you want to print. Be careful. You have 7 decimals. The variable that you're using, if you put here a variable, has 7 decimals because it's a floating point number, or 15 decimals if you have a double. What you are doing with this instruction is, I only want to print 1, or I only want to print 2, or I only want to print 3, whatever. It's used to format what is printed on the screen. You are not going to change the value at all. And this number is going to control how many numbers you want to print before the dot. Before the dot, the only thing that this thing is going to do is to add white spaces in the left part. So if your integer value is only 1 digit and you ask for 2 spaces, you're going to have a white space and then your digit. This one, yes, the decimals are going to be kind of round, but just for the printing. Again, the value is not changing, but you are going to notice the change in the last digit to show whatever you ask here. The important thing here is going to add white spaces at the beginning. But obviously, if you have a number and the number have 5 elements in the integer part, and you ask for only 1, the computer is going to ignore you. I mean, there is no way to use only 1 character to print a number with 5 digits. So don't worry, you can make mistakes, and the computer, if you make a mistake in this particular instruction, just ignore you. It's like, you want me to print 1 character, but your number is 5 digits. I put the 5 digits, which makes sense. Similar idea here. You can put a number before the D, and that number is how many elements you want from this integer number. So this one is exactly the same as the previous one. And for the character, you do not put never, 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 nothing here. So you use percentage C. Going back to the example, it's like, okay, according with your example, what is the meaning of this? Oh, it's going to ignore only for the integer. Answering the question in the chat, the only thing that is going to be ignored if you have a floating point number is the integer part, but for the decimals, it's a different thing. In this example here, if you notice, one option that you have is do not put anything before the dot. That basically means, computer, whatever is the number of elements before the dot, just print it. I do not want to mention any number because I know that I can be wrong. So it's just percentage, the dot, and the 2. And in this particular case, I am asking the computer, if I have an integer part, print it, but I only want 2 decimals. So in the example, if I put here number, and number is this double, 15 decimals, and if number is equal to 1 divided by 3, is 0.3333333, 15 threes, I am asking for only 2 decimals, 2 things after the dot, and what I am going to have is this output. Notice, I put this as a comment, right? Slash, slash. You do not need to put this comment in your program. I put the comment for you to know what is going to be printed. In the other example, something similar. I am not using a variable, I am using a number. So I put here 89 and a bunch of decimals. 7.3. I am asking for 7 spaces before the dot. Obviously, like, yeah, 89, and probably I'm going to have these 5 white spaces, which is okay. And the important thing here is I am asking for 3 decimals, so I am going to have only the 3 decimals the 3 spaces after my dot. So the value. So this is print with format. Did you notice that I mentioned the char? What do you think happens if I do system out print f? And what I want to print is percentage, use here. I am going to do system dot out dot print f, and I want to use percentage d, and I want to print the letter A, single quotation marks here. Done. What do you think? Can you agree with me that this guy is a character, right? But if you remember, characters are numeric values. Remember that we cannot do additions and multiplications and things like that with characters, because characters are values that correspond to a Unicode symbol. Remember, right? What happens if I ask the computer to print the character A? E. Percentage D is a decimal number, right? The computer is going to print the character A as a decimal number. What is going to be that decimal number? The Unicode value of the character. Are you telling me that I can do also system out print f as a character? 95? This is a number, right? As a character, print the character that corresponds to the number 595 in Unicode. You can do this. So I give you a number, you print the character. Or I give you the character, print the value. That is the nice things that you can do with these format things. I have a value, I need the character. I have the character, I need the value. Or for the floating point numbers, I can choose how many decimals I want to print. Someone asked me about this in the first week. So now you know how to choose how many decimals you want to print. So you can work always with doubles. So you always have 15 decimals, but maybe you do not want to print all of them. So maybe you want to print only 2 or 3, whatever. You choose the format, percentage F for the floats, yes, and percentage D for the integers, percentage C for the characters. That's it. Now, just to finish, something that you notice, something that I put here was this \n. Do you remember what is the meaning of the \n? It's a character, right? It's the character for the new line, exactly. Because print ln by default is going to print an enter at the end, but printf do not print by default an enter at the end. If you want the enter, you put the character enter, the \n. That's it. So with this, percentage D as an integer, percentage 5D, an integer with 5 spaces, percentage 7.2F, a floating point number, 2 decimal and 7 spaces for the integer part, percentage S for strings, percentage C for characters. Something new that you can use in your programs. The only thing that I'm going to ask you is please memorize this percentage T, percentage F, percentage S, percentage C. this work in Java, and later in the 240 class, you're going to review other languages, C, C++. This also exists there. So it's a good idea to learn this and remember. If I give you this program, do we understand what is going to be printed in this line? Like, what? I am going to print %d, a decimal value, right? I am going to print a %s, a string, right? And then I am going to print this, just like that. I am going to print this dollar symbol, just like that. %.2f, and this \n. Did you notice that inside of the string, I can have characters and I can have these special things, % something? This is the output. And hopefully you notice that, okay, this cost and the dollar symbol are here, but all the other elements comes from one variable, two variables, three variables. Can you notice that this instruction in particular is going to use this variable in this place, is going to use this variable in this place, and it's going to use this variable in this place. So basically it's going to print something and it's going to replace this % something with the particular value of a variable that I am going to put after the string. This is the first time that I am showing you a method that can receive or can have inside of the parentheses any number of elements. Use comma, 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 and more. You have one element here, a variable or a number or whatever, that should correspond to every single time that here you use a % something. And what you get as a result is that when you print, you can print characters, use like they are going to be always there, and you are going to put the values of the variables in particular places to create a particular sentence that you want. Not always. Answering the question in the chat, you do not put numbers between %c and %s. The c and the s do not have numbers. You only use numbers for the f and for the d, and the numbers are optional. So you can use like here %d, and I am not specifying how many characters do I want. That means that basically the computer is going to use all the characters. Similar thing can happen with the %s. If I do not put any number, the computer is going to use all the characters, all the numbers before the dot or after the dot. But if you put the number, that is the number of characters that you want to be printed. So the numbers are kind of optional, and only for the D and for the F. For characters and for strings, you cannot do this. Strings and characters are printed full. I am reading the chat. Yeah, so basically, when you put a number like %5d, you are asking to use 5 spaces. And what you're going to have is like, think about it. What happens if your number is the number 2? Well, the number 2 is use 1 space. So if you ask for 5, what the computer is going to try to do is to put 4 white spaces before the number. So when you print the number, you have these 4 white spaces and then the 2. And if you think about it, using this, you can create this column of values with all the values justified to the right, because you're going to have spaces and then the number. And you're going to have as many spaces as you need to complete a particular number that you specify, like this %5d. If you have 1 digit, is 4 spaces and the number, or 3 spaces and 2 digits, or 1 space and 4 digits, something like that. It's used to create a format like columns and something like a table with values. Good. So this information is in your textbook. That is the pages in the second edition if you want to review it. But my only homework for you, please try to put this in a program and run this and see what happened, and use maybe different numbers here in the percentage. The same with these examples here. Put these examples in a program and run the program. And obviously, this is what you need for your homework. Your homework is going to ask you to do a program that asks the user for some values and then do something with those values. So I am sure that you're going to review this slide, because this slide is what you need to copy and use in your assignment 1. And remember, assignment 1 due next Monday. So at this point, questions? I do not know. I do not have the 3rd edition of the textbook, so I do not know. Hopefully they are the same pages. My recommendation, you can go to the index and you search for the instruction, printf and print ln, so those 2 instructions, and you're going to find this. Or maybe you can search for this percentage d, percentage f at the end of the book, and just check that part. Good. So any question, guys? Great. So see you next week. Thank you. Do not forget your homework.